All right, so for your practice guide, problem 1, just add up all those options first, then add up the transportation, the base price, and the options. 2, figure out the trade-in value by subtracting off the price and subtract the rebate, so you figure out what your final price is for the vehicle. Deferred price, where you subtract the down payment off the price of the car, so you know what you're actually going to pay for it. Then compare that to the monthly payments they tell you, so you can figure out what you're actually paying in extra. It'll be some type of coverage. They'll give you, a person with some type of risk level, and then some type of factor on their policy. So just be ready to go on that. Number of miles that you traveled in so many years. So you got to figure out the total mileage and then divide by how many years you had the vehicle. And then I believe we ended up with gas mileage yesterday. We finished with number 6, correct? Mm-hmm. Where you had to figure out the mileage, and then divide by how many gallons. So you figure out your miles per gallon, right? It wasn't a very long trip, but yeah, it'll be something like that, okay? All right, we're gonna start with 7 and kind of work our way to the end. It's one of every type of problem that we did on page like 125, 126, 127, 128, 129. So you really have to keep it straight what you're doing. That's, I think, the most challenging part. It's like, oh man, I gotta remember how to do this problem. What is it asking? What is it giving me? That's why I was very clear on like the labeling situation. If you know what your labels are, it kind of tells you what you need to do to get the answer you need. Do you need to divide? Do you need to multiply? Do the labels cancel? Like what happens? Okay, so in this one, you are looking for the range of this vehicle. Range, that means mileage. How many miles can I drive? I get 21 miles per gallon and I have 17 gallons. So just thinking about the labels, miles per gallon, right? It means a fraction. That's miles per gallon. If I multiply by gallons, what happens? Yeah, because these cancel out. When you multiply by fractions, the labels cancel diagonally. That's what I want to do. So by just knowing the labeling situation, it tells me what I should do. I should multiply these two numbers together. 21 times 17. And that tells you how many miles you are going to travel. And yes, I do want the label on that. Like on that last problem, what is that number 6? You had to label it gallons, I think, correct? Is that what it was? Miles per gallon, yeah, MPG. Okay. All right, questions on this one, what you have to do. I'm going to leave that to you. You can multiply. I don't even want to know the answer. Just multiply the 2, get your number, tell me it's in miles. Okay, questions on the labeling situation here. Expect something like that. All I do is go in the homework and I just pick the different problem, different numbers. I don't make up a new one. I just pick the one you did in the homework. That's all I do. So you know what pages to look at. All right, again, I always use my labels to help me out with that. So it tells me kind of what I need to do. Do I need to multiply? Do I need to divide? Which numbers do I do? Okay? All right, next one. You want to find the amount of fuel needed for this trip. Okay, so you have miles first, and you have miles per gallon. Well, if I multiply, this thing isn't going away, right? It's not going to go away because diagonally they don't cancel. So what you need to do is divide instead. By dividing, it will cancel out the mileage and it will give you gallons of fuel. Because what happens here when you actually divide fractions, you actually multiply by the flip of it. That's actually what it's doing. So the mileage will cancel and you're left with gallons. That's why. So that tells me I don't need to multiply first, because multiplying wouldn't cancel the m's out. I have to divide it, and that's what it would do. So if this tells me what to do, I'm taking 370 and I'm dividing by 27. My label will be gallons of fuel. And you can divide those out and figure it out. Questions with how I did that, how I figured out what I needed to do. Because if I can't just straight multiply across, it's probably just division then. Because multiplying in that case wouldn't cancel off the ends, so I had to divide instead. All right. Let's go to number 9. Again, a lot of these you're going to have to do on your own and you have to type them in. Probably already did, maybe you already did these. Okay, number 9. You have a distance you're traveling and you have so many hours, okay? So you probably recognize these problems are from the homework. I think this is the page 128 stuff, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was miles and how many hours it was. You need to calculate that 12 minutes into hours. So what we talked about in class was take that 12 and divide by 60, because I need to know what that decimal is. So 12 divided by 60. Somebody actually have that? 12 divided by 60?
Yep.
0.2? Okay. So what you're going to do is, so this number represented 0.2 hours. So you add that with your 6, so this is 6.2 hours. That's important to do that first. That's not my final answer. I need to calculate what this is in terms of hours only. So I had to get that into hours. Now what we're going to do is take 340 and divide by that. Because what this is doing, what you're doing is you're actually getting miles per hour. Miles divided by hours. That's what you're doing. That's what miles per hour stands for. So if I divide, then your label is MPH, miles per hour. That's an average. You are not going very fast, I don't think. Probably about 50-ish.
54.83.
Sounds about right.
87.
Yeah, you're not going very quick.
68.
All right, questions on 9. What do you have to do? Have to divide. Write that number down. All right, let's move on to 10. We have 2 or 3 problems left, 10, 11, and 12.
Excuse me.
Let's go to number 10. All right, so miles and miles per hour. And we are trying to figure out how many hours this trip took, the time it takes to travel. So we have miles, and we have miles per hour. So do I multiply those labels, or do I divide them? At the divide. The reason why, if I multiplied, the m's wouldn't cancel. They're not diagonal. So that automatically tells me I have to divide these labels. So I'm dividing the numbers. So I'm taking 180, dividing by 45. My label will be in hours. It'll probably be a decimal. Say it again. You got, it's nice 4. That's nice. Just 4? 4 hours. Oh, that's clean. If it was like 4.3, then the 0.3 is how many minutes it is. And you could always figure that out by multiplying that 0.3 by 60 if you had decimals. And that'll tell you how many minutes you have. And if there's more decimals on that, then that's how many seconds you took. That's nice. It actually worked out a nice clean 4. That's really nice, in fact. But again, it's nice to know the label situation so you know, okay, am I going to multiply, I'm going to divide. I don't have to think about it too hard because I know the way that labels cancel. When I multiply, they have to be diagonal from each other. So if they're not diagonal, divide, and it will make them diagonal. Okay, questions on those? Okay, next one. Total times, or total money spent at the pump.
17 times 2.37.
Yeah, so we have so many, we have so much, so many dollars per gallon. I don't know why I have miles written there. That's weird. I have miles typed there. That's kind of a weird typo. I didn't even catch that when I printed it. All right, so you have price per gallon. So again, that's what this represents. It's P per gallon, price, right? Price per gallon. And we have gallons over here. So do I multiply or do I divide these?
Multiply.
You multiply because the labels are diagonal from each other. So if I multiply, they would cancel and it would be the price that you're paying. So now you can ignore the little 9. If you use the 9, fine and dandy. I just try to make it as like accurate as possible because when you go to the pump, that's what it looks like.
37.
So 237 just multiplied by 17. I don't care if you put the little 9. If you do, you're going to be more accurate. I'll just put extra decimals in the back. That's all it does. You have to be within a penny or two of the right answer. Okay, questions with what you're going to do there? Multiply the two numbers.
40.
Would it have a label on
Say it
it?
again?
Would it have a label on it?
It would be
Dollars.
price. It would be dollars. Yeah, because you're going to be left with price because that's the label that's left. Yeah. So, yeah, if you put the dollar, that's your label. Yep. Good question. Good question.
40.29.
Yeah, $40. Nice. That's actually kind of expensive.
Yeah.
$40 for 17 gallons.
For me,
17 gallons is a
from
lot, I
like-
guess.
For me, from like 4 gallons or something, it's like 20, 25 bucks. So that's probably like a truck or
Are
something.
you sure that's $40?
Yeah, 40.
Yeah, weird. All right.
So that's
Wow.
probably like a truck.
I guess I'm just not used to pumping 17 gallons of fuel. I'm always used to like pumping like 10 or 12 or whatever my car takes. Huh. Okay. All right, we're good with those? Okay, the last one. This is the tricky one. This is the one that I never assigned homework on. We talked about it in class. It is the price for the cost of a repair. So in this particular incident, we're replacing an alternator. You know what an alternator does? Typically you'll know if your alternator, if your car is going bad, if it cannot hold a charge to its battery. It's not the battery going dead. Batteries are expensive, don't get me wrong. But you get a brand new battery in the car and suddenly the next day it's dead. And you're like, oh, did I leave the door open? Did I leave the lights on? Is the trunk popped? Did I have some accessory plugged into the USB port that was draining battery? And it's none of those things. You did everything right. You had it in park, you had it off, you had the keys out, you had the lights turned off, everything. And it still was dead. It's probably the alternator's draining your battery. An alternator is supposed to cycle the battery to keep it charged and make all the electronics inside the car still work. Security systems, lights, things like that. So the little push button unlocker thing works. It makes the engine, kind of be more efficient. It's the power train. It's the powerhouse of like all the electronics. Basically, that's what it does. Fan belt, we replaced that. We've got a new filter for the oil, and we got some oil in the vehicle. So they did an oil change at the same time. It only took about an hour and a half-ish, hour
1:36.
Yep. And so, yeah, we're gonna add up all these prices. So what did you get again?
$250.49.
250.49. Okay.
That's expensive.
So yeah, so we added up. Oil change usually aren't too bad. They're about 30, 40, 50 bucks, depending on how much oil you're getting in your vehicle. They're usually cheap. It's cheap.
Depends on the oil.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on the oil, depends on the size of the vehicle, how many quarts you're gonna have. My truck takes a lot of oil, just because it's bigger. But it's usually about 30, 40 bucks, somewhere in that range. But now alternator, that is your pricey adventure. Yeah, that's not normal.
They ain't usually that much.
No, that's kind of expensive. Now, so this is the price you're paying. Now, what you have to do is charge taxes on that, just on the parts, 7% on taxes on parts. So you're gonna multiply this by 1.07. This will tell you the price of the parts. They only charge tax on parts. So what do we get?
268.2.
0.2. Okay, so $268.20. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so that's the pricey parts. Now we're not done yet, right? They charge you parts, they charge you at the register, boom, they hit the tax button, boom. Now what they also will do after that's all done, then they're going to add the labor in. Labor for vehicles are not taxed.
Is Jenna in here?
Yeah, she's taking a test. All right, what's up?
Because we need to go.
Oh, she did not know this. Hey Jenna, you're requested to leave here. Hey, you're requested to leave.
This is consumer?
Yeah.
That's your brother's 30.
I was once one of them.
Oh,
Good.
good. Come in tomorrow, finish up. Or you're back for dad. Good luck. Oh, thanks. Did it go okay so far?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, now what we have to do is calculate what the price is. So $45 per hour is the labor rate of this particular shop. To me, I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't really take mine to the shop. I usually just work on it myself. Don't know if that's good or bad. So 45 bucks. So you're going to take 45 times 1.6.
72.
72. So you're paying $72 for the labor. Again, why? It's $45 per hour and you worked about an hour. So it's definitely over $45 and you almost worked an hour and a half. So it's the 45 plus an extra like half basically.
2, 4, 3.
So then your final thing is to add these two together, and that'll be the final bill that they give you. That's why on every receipt, when you take it to a shop, they always have the parts off to the right separate, and then they have the labor separate, and they add them up later. You don't charge tax on labor. That makes no sense. It's like in a grocery store, they don't charge you tax on fruits and vegetables, like things that spoil. There's no point. They only charge you tax on actual hard items, non-produce. Okay, questions? Okay, practice guide. This is due tomorrow. So no, I didn't go through every problem. I kind of left some for you to kind of finish up. I usually try to do that every once in a while. Some simple calculations. I told you what to do, you just have to finish it. If you know that you're done and complete, because I know a lot of you kind of worked ahead when I was kind of going through that. If you want to turn it in, I'll take it, I'll grade it. If you want to hold on to it and kind of study it tonight, that's fine. But I'll hold it if you want it. You can just turn it into me, put it in the back basket, doesn't matter. I know a lot of you kind of get stuff done, just want to turn it in. So. Boom. What was that?